Hi, and welcome to the new normal. I'm your host, Lisa Davis, aka Litecoin Lisa. Today has been just an amazing day. Happy February 17th to everyone. It is President's Day, and I love our president. I'm very grateful if he is the president. We'll just see. I think we're about to find out a lot of things, and I want to see what the Emperor of Din Social has to say about it. So join me with my friend William. You guys know him as I am on X or on din.social, and you can always join in the Mighty Lair and leave your comments and join the discussion. So be right back right after this. Please give us a like and share the video. Oh, great and wide.
So that's how I did it to become the emperor of all social media. The end. You missed it, Lisa.
I missed the whole story. Oh my goodness. I think I've heard it before.
As you were saying, Lisa, you were trying to address me as emperor.
I apologize, Emperor. May I speak? Oh, wise and great one. Yeah, it's been a crazy day. And
it is. You know what I called today? I'm sorry. Maybe this might be offensive, but I called this, I was wishing some people happy dead president on fiat money day.
I would be okay with that. With the amount of things that have come out in the news today, yeah, it really, I mean, with these disclosures that they're talking about. So they're talking about bringing out, we've been talking about this for a while, the JFK assassination attempt or possibility, the Donald Trump assassination attempt. Then they were talking about extraterrestrial life disclosure is on that same list.
Right.
So just some strange things going on. And then today, Kash Patel was supposed to be confirmed. I never saw that it happened. However, it is President's Day. So I thought it was strange that they ever pushed it to today because it should have been a holiday.
Exactly.
A federal.
I heard something about it over the weekend. I go, Monday's a holiday. How are they going to get him confirmed on a Monday? Maybe did they mean Tuesday and they just misspoke? That's what I was thinking. So the vote was supposed to happen today. So I think it's going to happen tomorrow. Boy, he's the one I really want to get in. I would love it if he just closed down the damn FBI. But that's not going to happen. That's just my thoughts.
You don't think
convert the FBI and just all the field agents and that kind of thing, put them into the different groups like the DEA and in the, a different cybercrime or in the marshal's office, these kinds of things. Because the FBI since day one, as far as I'm concerned, has been so corrupt and it's been wielded as a sword by various presidential administrations. Case in point, this last time go around with the J6, we had 38% of the agents and people in the facility working on the J6. Really? That was that priority?
The CIA came out saying, or they have video, I can't remember if it was a James O'Keefe video or not, but saying that they were admitted that they withheld information from President Trump. And so that's straight treason. I mean,
exactly.
From a sitting president.
Exactly.
So we'll see. I don't think we need any of that. We'll see where it goes. Oh, one thing I didn't discuss with you before we came on here, but I saw them talking about more and more. There was a bill introduced or something to have Idaho or Seattle, Oregon separate. They're going to split like right down the middle, red and blue, and leave Seattle out. And it's like I guess it's like a Texit, but kicking out a whole city is kind of the map or the idea.
Wow. That's how kind of the votes went. Yeah. Seattle's Washington, and Washington's got the same issue as Oregon and Portland. So those.
Okay. Maybe it was a different. I'm
So
thinking of
it's both, because both of them wanted to join the Greater Idaho movement, and there's parts of Southern Oregon that said we'll join Northern California and become Jefferson, the new
okay.
state
Heard,
Jefferson.
I
The
heard
two.
actually one of the Paul, oh gosh, and now it's not Paul. Is it Peter Santinelli
Oh
video?
yes,
He
yes.
went to Jefferson County and learned about the state of Jefferson and the movement and all that. It was really interesting.
It's kind of like this one that I
Yeah,
always show.
it is.
I've gone to meetings and I listen to the shows and I listen to the updates and I get on their mailing list, all that stuff. I really follow it kind of closely.
Mhm.
Sometimes I think, though, we're trading one tyrant for another.
Oh, for sure. That's why I just think all of that needs to go away. In fact, one of our friends, she had a friend that went to J6, attended, and he was scheduled to go to prison like the next day, but he got his pardon that day. And she said, "No, we're here with the marshal." Because everybody's like, "Go to the sheriff." I said, "Go to the sheriff, find your constitution." She goes, "Yeah, he's here. He's with the marshals." And I said, "No, the marshals are federal.
Right.
That is you need to go to the local county sheriff." And then she was like, "Oh, great. I'll get some help. I know who to call, whatever." So
Right.
hopefully that all went well.
Boy, my sheriff would be the last person I would call.
Your local county sheriff? Really?
Yes, he went. He even was invited to speak at the DNC
Oh, dear Lord.
about immigration of all places, and I'm here in Texas.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, he's pretty bad. He's pretty
Wow.
bad.
Yeah, we have a
Um,
great local constitutional sheriff here where I live and where I'm moving to with mom. So next door to mom. So super excited about that.
wow.
If anybody would like to buy a home in Oklahoma City, North Oklahoma City, please consider purchasing my home so I can get the hell out of here.
There you go.
Yeah. Let's see. We wanted to start it off with the gold. So this is interesting. So Elon's calling for, Doge is calling for a, there's a couple different threads on this that I wanted to share on an audit on Fort Knox. So there was one state representative that couldn't get in. And he had been, let's see, why will this not let me share the screen? I'm doing something wrong. I have to remove my thing.
No
Oops.
problem.
Remove.
No worries.
Stop screen. He couldn't get in. They wouldn't let him in. And then
Massey, right?
I think it was Massey. And then there's been these very strange billions of dollars being sent from the LBMA to the US.
I don't understand that, because I know there's kind of a gold run on the, Bank of England or England banks. They've been demanding gold and asking for gold, and there's been delays. They've been kind of him and hawing and making excuses. So there's not enough gold, obviously, to cover everyone's deposit that they're demanding a withdrawal from. And then to hear that they're sending gold from the UK to the US is like, what?
Yeah.
I'm not connecting those dots at all. Other than, who knows, gosh, there's some conversation that financially UK is in so much trouble that did they cut, this is just some guy on the internet thinking, did they cut a deal with the US and say, hey, listen, we're in financial trouble and things could get real ugly here. So will you hold our gold for us until we sort this out, so they don't come in and as a mob and raid us and take all the gold?
You don't think it's a payment? You think it's possibly like a partnership? Yeah. Well, that's interesting thoughts, because with the conversations right now with Russia and the US and people being in fear that China might step in and support Russia if the US doesn't get this whole Ukraine thing figured out.
Right.
It would be very interesting to hear then that Because if the U.S. pulls out, if the U.S. pulls all their military out of, all these European countries and says, you know what, I'm out of NATO and you guys aren't going to play my rules. I made a deal with Putin and,
Ooh.
Zelensky's not cooperating. I don't know. That is a big game changer possibility, I guess.
Well, I'm going to go a different route. I'm going to go completely woo-woo on you and say that we're not going to leave NATO, or we're not going to leave NATO alone in Europe, because the generals and the military industrial complex will never let go of that. That's a big place for them to sell a lot of their goods, their military weaponry, to European nations. So even if Trump were to order it, I think they would defy him and drag it out, or say, oh yeah, it's just a long process, sir. Mr. President, it's going to take about 3.5 years. By then he's out. You know what I mean? Something like that. Or they're going to, it'll get to a point where they'll just completely disobey him. But I think Trump is still a man that thinks like Reagan in, trust but verify, peace through strength, and not supporting NATO or providing NATO weaponry, this kind of thing, is not a way to display strength.
To be a strong American dollar and all that. Yeah,
but I think he will cut a deal with Putin. But Putin has the upper hand because he's gaining so much territory every day. Ukraine has lost the war. We're running our factories at top speed. Europe can't even run their factories because of, they cut their own pipeline, or we blew up their pipeline, like in Germany, and they don't have the raw materials. And we don't even have the raw materials or the manufacturing to keep up with Russia. So, whatever the number is, but it's insane. It's like for every tank that we create or, able to manufacture, Russia's, generating 12 or 20 or 30 tanks. And the same goes with ammunition and mortar shells and drone technology. Shoot, even our drones are using, composite material and chips from China. So how can we even, out manufacture Russia?
If we have our assets from Mexico and Canada and Greenland added, and don't forget Puerto Rico, which is part of the U.S. People just don't acknowledge it.
Have you been to Puerto Rico?
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
Have you been to Puerto Rico? I haven't visited yet.
I have never, but I have a very dear friend that lives there and comes to our meetups, and we hope to do a meetup there sometime.
Wow, that'd be great. I have several people that I know who have moved there. I've had numerous employees that worked for me that were originally from Puerto Rico, and over the years. My wife's best friend has close friends and family down there, or whatever, and so she goes. And the last time she went, it's like, I'm going to move here. I'm going to retire and move here. So she loved it.
My friend,
but it's kind of backwards. There's a lot of things that's backwards,
Oh, really? I know it's doesn't have a lot of resort. Like my friend,
right?
He shows me pictures of the people that own horses there. They brand their horses and then they just let them run wild all over the island. He lives in Vieques, which is just an island off of Puerto Rico, I guess.
Nice.
I think it's really interesting. We'll see where all that goes. But here is another thing that triggered today. Elon is saying, confirming the gold in Fort Knox. Is it there? Is it not there? And then it was Mike Lee who said he was told that he can't come in.
Crazy?
Yeah. And what's interesting to me is there was just tremendous flooding. And I believe it was Donald Trump, but it would have had to been by the governor's ask or whatever. But apparently National Guard was brought in to Kentucky for flooding all around the and the Ohio River is above there, of course,
Mhm.
and is just north of Fort Knox. So that was very interesting that, it would just happen to flood the day that Elon, announces the Doge
I
coming to look
I
at it.
could picture like Trump and Elon going to say Camp David or something for the weekend, and then just getting kind of a wild hair up their ass and saying, "Hey, let's go ahead and go on over to Fort Knox, kind of unannounced. I'm the president. I demand to take a look." And I could see something like that happening. Can you imagine? The
Mhm.
president's helicopters, landing close to Fort Knox and saying,
Just
"Hey."
do a flyover.
Well, not a flyover, land right by it and say, "We
Oh,
want in. Open a door. We're going to look." You
well,
know,
so
I can imagine him doing something that bold. That would be impressive. I would salute him for doing that. You
yeah,
know, because we have to. But let me flip it the other way, because this was a conversation I had in the weekend with friends. Was um, what if the gold isn't there? What would that send that shockwave to the world and to our economy and to the dollar? Let's say that came out, a couple of days after we find out there's multiple shooters and the government actually took out Kennedy and maybe Bobby Kennedy and maybe MLK as well, or something like that. The distrust level of our own government would be already at such a sensitive high. And then to find out that gold in Fort Knox is not there, it's been stolen or pissed away or whatever. And what would that do to the whole fabric of the United States, and as well as the world, and as a reserve
well,
currency?
I'm curious what's going to happen tomorrow on Wall Street,
Yeah.
because waking up to hear all this, the gold, and then I don't want to jump off the gold too quickly, but of course the Doge SEC being established and them asking for requests of fraud, waste, and abuse.
Right.
Uh,
Let's ask the chat something real quick. Chat, if gold is missing out of Fort Knox, put in a 1. If you think all the gold is there, put a 2. So if you believe that we still have the gold in Fort Knox, that's a 2. And if you believe, chat, that gold is missing out of Fort Knox, put a 1. I want to see what they
we
say.
have a pretty smart chat, so I'm pretty
Exactly.
sure
Because I
they're
want to show
on
you
it.
this. If you could share my screen real quick.
Yeah.
Many of us know what poly markets are. Poly markets are, everyone bets. It's kind of like Vegas, but betting on. We saw that president was Trump going to win, or was Kamala going to win, and the poly markets really got in the news, and it's been growing in popularity because it works better than polls, because you're putting in money and you're betting one way or the other. Kind of
Mm,
like our chat's putting a 1 or 2 in here, and I'm seeing a
okay.
whole bunch of
Interesting.
ones.
Yeah.
So look at this poly market. I couldn't believe this. I pulled this up today. 16% chance that gold is missing from Fort Knox. It got as high as 50%, but it fell back down to 16% at the time of the snapshot. And it's going to expire. This poly market is going to expire in June 30th, 2025.
Somebody's going to
So
make a
right,
bunch of money on that.
yeah. So well, if we're allowed in and we can audit it.
Yeah.
Who knows? We may not be allowed in, but right now, only 16% of people think that there's gold missing. The majority of the people think the money is there, the gold is there. I was
Oh, come
shocked
on.
when I saw that.
I thought wasn't it in the 80s or 70s that we
70s.
found all the tungsten, the gold coated tungsten, that was already proven,
I
wasn't
don't
it?
know. I didn't think it was proven. I don't think that was if it's very possible it was tungsten. I liked all of the memes where Jerry Diamond, he's holding a brick and he's got some gold spray paint, and another
Jamie
one where
Dimon.
he's holding a
Yeah.
big rock and he's got gold spray paint.
Yeah.
With spray
Yeah.
painting on
Jamie
piece of
Dimon
gold.
might have to buy some more spray paint, I think.
It's funny.
He
It's
might.
funny. So anyway, so the chat's overwhelmingly 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, and I have to agree with the chat. We got a lot of gold missing in Fort Knox, which it's really no surprise to us, right?
Not at all.
Thanks, chat. Appreciate you
For
making this participatory.
Yes, you guys are wonderful. Here was that quick. Sorry, since I mentioned this and then I didn't have this is a CIA employee caught on camera. It was O'Keefe Media, deliberately saying.
Where does it say?
Does it?
That's the point.
Information from Donald Trump during
What's
his
CMC?
presidency.
Mission Center.
I remember this guy.
Mission Center.
Gotcha.
Amjad talks about how the CIA kept information from Trump.
Like working.
We kept information from him.
Say one more time.
We kept information from him.
From Trump?
Yes. He's an idiot. And there are certain people.
Who's the idiot now?
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. I think they were able to get away with it the first term, but he's wiser and smarter to their tactics. Let's hope that more is exposed. I think there's a lot that unfortunately he's probably not going to get to the bottom of, but we're going to be a lot better off. And unfortunately, there are a lot of big power brokers that are controlling the intel superstate, as I like to call it. Like USAID or USAID, budget was it wasn't even 1% of our budget. It's such a fraction. And to see how that money was being spent, it's such a fraction. And I don't.
Who cares about that and who doesn't is really interesting to me.
Yes. And some of the money trails are interesting, like to Politico, ABC News, NBC News, CNN, where the other big money is the NGOs, the non-government organizations, and how they get all that money and how it's dispersed. The FTX scandal with Sam Bankman-Fried is a good example of an NGO and money going in to that and then coming out and, paying off politicians and going to Ukraine and getting cleaned before it even goes through that process. So the corruption is so massive. We have no effing clue how deep, how wide, how vast that swamp is and how much corruption there is. It's really murky water. And the filtration device of Doge is going to hit its limits. It's scalable, but it's still going to hit its limits. It's going to hit its roadblocks. It's going to be fascinating. And if we could share this was on one of the examples you said. Here's a good example of the government corruption we've seen and the corruption we haven't seen yet. Yeah. And let's hope we get to see it all. And for those who are just listening, what it is, it's the iceberg. And you know how the iceberg is just a tip above the water, but the mass of ice is underneath the water. Well, that's what this is. And at the top, it says government corruption we've seen. And under the water is obviously all the corruption we're yet to see.
Yeah, I can't wait. I mean, they thought it was just going to be Doge, and now it's branching out into Doge, FBI, Doge, SEC. Today, there was an announcement of Doge, SEC, and they made a single Twitter post. And they said, Doge is seeking help from the public. Please DM this account with insights on finding and fixing waste, fraud, and abuse relating to the Securities and Exchange Commission. I will tell you that there is another way to submit that a friend of mine that I shall remain nameless, but he did pull up information. I don't know if you guys can see this. If I'm full screen, I think you can't see it, and I don't think I can. It says, if you would like to provide written input on the issues of the task force is considering, please, including those described above, you may submit input by sending an email with the subject line crypto task force input to crypto@sec.gov. Documents submitted will be posted on www.sec.gov. Submissions received will be publicly posted without change or redaction of personal identifying information. You should only make submissions that you wish to make available publicly. You may request a confidential treatment following, and then there's like a link. I'll share that in the Telegram group if anybody wants to find this information and be able to follow it.
It's critical too. For Dragon Chain, I'm going to do this on behalf of the Dragon Chain case.
I think that's wonderful. So I had done one. I had previously submitted a complaint about the Jorge Tenero with the support and but individually. It's a decentralized opportunity by supporting my friends at Very Dow and all Veritasium holders in the secondary market. I've said in multiple videos and interviews, I believe we've been harmed by the actions of the SEC. And so I was going to just maybe read my little statement for you.
I'd love to hear it.
So let me make sure I'm not sharing my home address or something.
Yeah, don't do that.
Yeah. Okay, I have it pulled up the right way. And this is my victim impact statement and why is it not letting me do the screen? Share screen. There it goes. Window. It says to Attorney Grievance Committee, Supreme Court Appellate Division. So this I had previously submitted, but I will be submitting this. Actually, a group of us are submitting our complaints together to the DOGEsec. So it says, I'm a wife, foster mother, adoptive medically fragile children, and homeschooling mother of 5. I'm also an American small business owner and a very token holder who was harmed by the actions of the SEC and Jorge Tenero. Their unconstitutional overreach through regulation that effectively functioned as legislation caused me financial harm. This harm stemmed from vague accusations made by the SEC. For example, the very token was mentioned in the accusations against Reggie Middleton over 150 times, yet it was not mentioned at all in the settlement. Additionally, the SEC even ignored subsequent requests for clarity from the community, which led to a loss in the token's value due to this lack of clarity in the secondary markets. Some trading platforms display false warning banners on very pages stating that the SEC brought charges against Reggie and Veritasium. However, these banners fail to acknowledge the agreement reached in the settlement between the parties. This omission has led to a loss of faith in the tokens and further harm to token holders, whom the SEC is mandated to protect. I'm also active in the cryptocurrency movement and community. I rely on my YouTube channel and speaking opportunities as a stream of income. My association with Veritasium as a token holder publicly and supporter has damaged my professional reputation due to the SEC's actions, which led others to believe that the project was fraudulent. I have been harassed and ostracized by some individuals and communities because of these SEC claims of fraud, which has affected my career and my income potential. Furthermore, I've experienced losses that can never be regained during this time of unprecedented inflation. I plan to rely on Veritasium's platform for certain technical functions that are now unavailable, forcing me to seek alternatives. I believe the SEC's actions have impeded the innovation of America and have brought harm to all Americans. I submit this complaint with trepidation, fearing repercussions from the very entity tasked with protecting individuals like myself. I've heard that some token holders were contacted by the SEC, felt pressured to provide statements against Veritasium or Reginald Middleton. After witnessing the weaponization of the SEC through actions of Jorge Tenero, I've lost trust in the fairness of regulatory bodies like the SEC.
Oh, that's outstanding, Lisa.
So then it goes on to give background, request for investigation. of
Ooh,
professional
nice.
misconduct.
And it's like the case number. Good.
Oh yeah, it's the case numbers in there.
Wow.
It talks about the breaches of Mr. Chinrero's actions, breaches of the law of New York rules. Let's see.
Well over 20,000 individual addresses.
Mhm.
Yep. Assets. Yeah.
This is easily thousands of people that were negatively affected by these actions. The tokens were not traditionally investments, but represented a unique software utility within the ecosystem. Many token holders relied on these tokens for accessing the unique offerings. Then it goes on and tells like a background history,
Good.
and talks about the defendants. Let's see. It talks about Reggie and who he is, foreshadowing the financial crisis. He later founded Veritasium. The defendants conducted an ICO, digitally sold tokens called Veri tokens, enabled token holders to acquire Veritasium's research and reports, and the business expanded to gain the company's software platform and avail themselves of Veritasium's unique products and services, which continue to be expanded on and improved. Then it goes into, in the summer of 2017, the SEC commenced an investigation of the defendants predicated on erroneous assumptions that Veritasium's sale of utilities was an unregistered offering of digital assets, a fabricated term. So they called it digital asset securities. Like they're just making stuff up.
Exactly.
A fabricated term, and in itself with no statutory base or foundation. The investigation lasted until August 12th of 2019 when the SEC filed an action seeking an emergency TRO, freezing temporarily, they say. Freezing, I hope it's temporary. All of Mr. Middleton's personal, as well as Veritasium's assets, his company. The SEC purported emergency was based on Middleton's transfer of digital assets that the SEC alleged were a dissipation of company assets caused by Middleton's receipt of a Wells notice indicating the agency would likely sue him. Like they give you a warning shot before they go after you. 10 days earlier, though, defense counsel had demonstrated to the SEC the asset transfer in question was nothing more than a routine funding for the Veritasium's ongoing lawful business operations and was consistent with the company's prior funding practices. The SEC did not disclose this information to the court. So that's where this complaint is more than just the one individual. It's, he was the lead investigator or counsel,
Right.
whatever, but
Right.
these are the actions of the entity of the SEC. So in its asset application, and apparently knowing or should have known, it incorrectly represented to the court that Mr. Middleton had transferred a portion of the assets to a personal account. In fact, all assets remained in the company's control. This goes into more of the TRO action, freezing, causing significant harm to the Veritasium holders and utility holders. The defendants applied this court for lifting it, the freeze in its entirety. Until Veritasium's assets were frozen, the company was operational and functional with their platform, which enabled its utility token holders to purchase blockchain-based ownership interests in gold and other precious metals at a discount. I wonder why they would go after him.
Yep. Gee.
Yeah, then let's see, it goes on. This constitutes abuse of process under the New York penal law. And I don't know how much of this will be applied with the Chevron decision.
That's where I was going to ask.
Being rolled back because they created these fake laws and then held Reggie and Veritasium and all of us accountable for it, but they didn't have the authority to create those laws, in my understanding. So then it goes on to Chinrero's behavior, and they compare it to the debt box case. And let's see, signed by all those senators, blah, blah, blah. Council did not to avert these corrections, please. Let's see. Anyway, it gets into all the detail.
Go back up real quick. Right there. It says, okay, so Digital License Inc., also known as the debt box case to SEC Chair Gary Gensler, signed by Senators James Vance, who's an RVP, Thom Tillis, Bill Haggerty, Kitty Boyd, Brett, and Cynthia Loomis. And in response to the judge's request for an explanation of the materially false and inaccurate allegations contained in the action.
Right. So then there's a
Slander
quote
statement.
from them
Wow.
from their debt box case, and it says this statement suggests that the error was one of negligence rather than malviolence. Where I don't know how I'm supposed to say the word. Sorry. But even with this charitable explanation, it is unacceptable that the commission counsel should be so unfamiliar with relevant facts of the case that the commission attorneys could have such little regard for the veracity of deliberate misrepresentation evidence or unknowingly present false information. This case suggests that other enforcement cases brought by the commission may be deserving of scrutiny. Like this one.
Maybe.
It is difficult to maintain confidence that there are other cases not predicated upon dubious evidence, obfuscations, and outright misrepresentations. So then they go on talking about all of the
Fraud upon the court.
may serve, blah, 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 the court for, and it basically, resulting when Tenrero did not directly make false statements, failure to correct known falsehoods or misstatements in subsequent filings, once they come to light, itself is an ethical violation, and despite having opportunities to do so, failed to correct such false and misleading statements in subsequent pleadings to the court, resulting in a, quote, fraud on the court.
Yep, that's for sure.
And then they go into what the professional rules of conduct are for the state of New York, because it was the state of New York's court that went after. And there's the allegation of false claims. So this has all the documents, the references. Then it goes on to like the next one. On or about March 9th, Mr. Middleton and his staff gave a live demonstration of Vader to SEC staff members. Boy, they're really hiding stuff, aren't they? At their offices in New York and virtually from DC on March 13th. 4 days after praising Mr. Middleton on the functionality of the system, the SEC instructed him to shut it down, cancel smart contracts, and restrict new registrants. However, how can one shut down that which is alleged not to exist? Because
I remember them saying it was vaporware, but in fact, he was proving in that march in New York that no, it wasn't vaporware.
It was active. Yeah.
It was active.
But
right.
then they use these words like fraud and all of this. So then there's the following communication between the council and Tenrero. Let's see. They must have got this from a FOIA. The SEC staff, including blah, 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 do not accept that Vader is operating in beta because the system currently has real customers who have put in real money. Oh, wait, didn't they just say it doesn't work? The staff has some serious concerns about the need for registration. I said your goal is to try to resolve their investigation into your token sales on terms that won't destroy your business, operate Vader in a manner that the SEC is comfortable with, and obtain all necessary registrations to allow the business to move forward legally. I told her we do not want the SEC staff to think they have to run to the court immediately to get a TRO, temporary restraining order. And so although Mr. Middleton did not agree with SEC's position, he terminated beta testing in deference to an ongoing SEC investigation. Then it goes into like all these other document releases of people being questioned. What was an asset, what wasn't, and if the very tokens to, let's see, there's operational. This was to beta test, blah, blah, blah. Sorry, after that, then they had to pull it. So it shows little doubt that Tenrero knew that the Vader platform was operating and was functional, as he admits in his own words. And then they quote him a couple times here. One of the features you showed us on the Vader in beta mode. So they just kept using like the words over and over again, their own words, all the examples of the fraud that was perpetrated against the token holders. Let's see. Then it goes into all these other rules that were violated, marketing, making false statements of facts, truthfulness in statements, engaging in misrepresentations. I want to see. There's more. It was alleged that he secretly placed trades to manipulate the market of however, the SEC apparently purposely failed to inform the court by omission that public announcements had been made about placing trades on New Ether Delta to test their platform. And then it shows the testing Ether Delta as a method of
So they were calling the test trades as we're trying to classify them as real trades and use that as evidence against the very token.
That's my understanding, even though there's statements saying anyone interested in buying Very, please visit this and let me know. It was Ether testing Ether Delta. It says right there. So
yeah. And it's at a github.io address too. So, it's not on the actual exchange for the actual token.
I see. Yeah. So it's a test
that's great.
site. Then they go into, oh goodness, it's very long, but let's see, on May 31st, 2017, in the Bitcoin forum, Ether Delta was first ever decentralized exchange. That evidence was omitted, from the SEC's submission to the court. Test trades were to examine, so here he's explaining both performance on the new platform and liquidity of Very token. They were email and other communication records demonstrating operational units, which €10 had sight of. That's the other part. This wasn't done in the dark. Let's see. So there's no data from the SEC to confirm sustained price inflation post-Middleton trades, weakening the SEC stance even more. Also something omitted by Tenrera. Then goes more into the trades.
Were they pulling his strings, telling him the results they wanted? Or was it himself doing it, do you think? Or a little bit of both? Maybe it was a little bit of both, huh?
I don't know.
Wow.
I don't know, because I just don't know his motivation other than now. So a bunch of people in the Veritasium community filed these complaints. And then a few days ago, Tenrera was moved to the IT department. And so that was interesting. Let's see, the supplement declaration. Anyway, this goes on and on and on, and has all of the
lays everything out.
Lays everything out, the whole story, and what happened, and how we were all harmed. And then it shows like what laws, that they are supposed to be, or their conduct, their code of conduct that they're supposed to follow, and how those were broken. The SEC deliberately or otherwise made materially and false, misleading representations that undermined the integrity of the proceedings. The restraining order froze the defendant's assets, shut down Veritasium, and caused Very token to crash, and much more. And this was, let's see. This is a quote from one of the previous senators. It's unconscionable that any federal agency could operate in such an unethical, unprofessional manner. The error was one of negligence rather than, that's the same quote from previously. Yeah. This was really bad. They knew they messed up on this. And then this was another thing that they did not correct themselves. So
with Kraken?
Yes, the ownership of
Kraken
an
exchange
account. So there was a Kraken account. So Tenrera misrepresented the ownership of a Kraken cryptocurrency account in his evidence. In the TRO, he claimed it was a personal account belonging to Reginald Middleton, and that Mr. Middleton had personally misuse the proceeds from Very Token offering. However, the Kraken account was in fact a Tier 4 corporate account owned by Veritasium LLC. Tinrero made assertions that these actions warranted the emergency asset freeze, presenting them as direct evidence of financial misconduct. This misrepresentation led the court to freeze Veritasium's assets, damaging the company's opportunities, preventing the company, Mr. Middleton, from being able to even defend themselves and diminishing the value of Very tokens. So they get into, here's where he talks about it. He says, here's a document reference. There's multiple document references on this. So the ETH proceeds flow directly from an account from the name of Middleton and an online digital asset. That's in the application, they wrote that. And then the document reference here, it says, in addition to ETH raised from the sale of VE gold tokens, was automatically routed by the smart contract, enabling the sale of tokens to an account in Middleton's name at a digital asset trading firm. In other words, defendants use Very investor friends to purchase the inventory to be sold by VE assets, but the proceeds of such sales flowed to Middleton rather than Veritasium. Shortly thereafter, on or about July 30th, 2019, Middleton transferred 10,000 ETH from the offering to an Ethereum blockchain address. This address sent the total of 750 ETH to the VE Gold smart contract, which then sent. So it keeps going. The commission makes this application. This is the declaration of Jorge Tinrero in support of the SEC application for TRO. I wanted to get into the other part of, is this it? The SEC witness. I think this is it when he admits that he was wrong. Duty states that he gleaned information from a publicly available blockchain. This is about Patrick Duty in his one of the SEC's expert witnesses. So he says, based on information from digital asset trading platforms through which Veritasium or Middleton exchange Ethereum or Bitcoin for fiat, Kraken has indicated that the owner of this address is one of either Reginald Middleton or Eleanor Reed. Doty claims that it was Kraken that told him the account was either in Mr. Middleton or Eleanor Reed's, proving that Doty stated there was direct communication between Kraken and the SEC staff. Yet the complaint alleged this account belonged to Mr. Middleton personally. Doty's declaration disingenuously infers that Kraken was not sure who the address account belonged to, which defies belief, as Kraken would definitely have known who the address belonged to.
It required KYC.
KYC, yeah.
Yep.
Factually, the account belonged to Veritasium LLC and was a corporate account, not a personal account. The SEC, led in this action by George Tinrero, was or should have been aware of this, notwithstanding the actual ownership of the accounts, even when there appeared ambiguity regarding ownership. Jorge still attributed ownership to Mr. Middleton. In reality, no such ambiguity ever existed, since the SEC knew of the Kraken account from at least before July 11th, 2018. See, all these dates matter too, because they knew about all this stuff. It was contained in a subpoena, and there's the link, requested by of Gmail items requested by the SEC, wherein Jorge Tinrero is quoted saying, quote, "We knew about Coinbase, Citi, JP Morgan, but now heard about," what's that?
Yeah, and then about Gemini, Bank of America,
and perhaps others. So had more than a year to verify ownership of any accounts. It's inconceivable. They didn't know who the account didn't belong to. They also knew or would have had to know that his account was a Tier 4 account. Because so for it to be called a Tier 4 corporation, you get that designation. They supplied that to the SEC. Those documents were all put in there. Let's see. Clearly showing the account application was in the name of, okay, so this is where they have the electronic messages between Kraken support, Eleanor Reed and Reggie Middleton, dated February 28th, 2018, clearly showing the account application was to be in the name of Veritasium LLC, and that the SEC had all this information and documentation. during its 2-year investigation. And then here's where he admits it. He says, I referred to a certain account at Kraken, a digital asset trading platform, in describing the flow of digital assets from the ICO as an account held by Middleton, or as Middleton's Kraken account. In choosing to describe the account as such, I referred to the account opening documentation that listed Mr. Middleton as a requester for the account. The sole contact for the account, and which that's not true either, because he just said that Eleanor or whatever was on the other documents. Anyway, and attempted to use his personal social security number. Oh, they can claim anything. Anyway, I understand now that the account is titled in the name of Veritasium LLC. So clearly Doty and Jorge
he created the problem. He essentially lies, creating the harm, and then he rollbacks his statement after the fact, which the harm's already been done. It can't be recouped.
Right.
Plus the freeze, the TRO.
Seems like Kamala said, had a statement like that she loved the power of the pen, because you could destroy someone with just accusations. And by the time they could get to court or possibly be able to defend themselves, so much harm and damage would have been done that maybe it didn't matter if it was true or not.
And forget, including financial loss, including lawyer fees, court fees, whatever.
Well, and when they're freezing all of his assets, then the business can't continue. So then all of us trying to use the software. And then we asked for clarity on the token, and we're denied clarity from the SEC on the token in the secondary market. And so you asked for tokens back in the Very Fair Fund. They didn't ask for the tokens back. They asked to make people whole with this Very Fair Fund, which I didn't get in on that. I think a lot of people didn't request, but they did not require you to turn in your tokens. So if they believed these were securities, why would they leave them out in the wild in people's hands if they believe them to be securities? But in the settlement, they never mention the tokens. They don't even talk about them. So gosh, it goes on and on.
It's beyond.
There's more. There's like 12. Anyway, and then it gives all the details and all the proof and all that. I wanted to show you. There was a quick list from that one of our friends did.
It's intentional. Gosh, it's not even. I don't even want to call it corruption. It's an evil act on the government to prey on someone like that. Especially when there was bigger fraud to be investigating and tearing apart and digging into, like FTX.
Yeah, these are the at least 12 instances of fraud. And if the whole Jim Willie thing and them talking about fraud vitiates everything, I don't know where this ends up. And what this does for Reggie or Veritasium or for all Americans, in my opinion. But he has a list here of all the fraudulent misrepresentation of the platform functionality, and gives a summary: fraud on the court, misrepresentation of material and legal filings, gives more information, false statements about asset ownership, and that was the Kraken account issue. Fabrication of the asset dissipation claims, which there's a summary here. They said the SEC falsely claimed Middleton was dissipating assets to justify the TRO. Evidence showed transactions were routine, which we kind of went over that.
Business operations,
yeah. Suppression and manipulation of evidence. The
RICO charge there are so horrible.
They ignored, suppressed, or omitted exculpatory evidence, including witness affidavits and documentation proving Vader's functionality and the legitimate use of funds. There are claims that the SEC pressured witnesses and very token holders to provide false testimony. Fraudulent characterization of patents. Here's the other part. Reggie now just got another patent. He is now holding 7 patents, and they accused him of fraud. The SEC Tenero falsely claimed that Veritasium's patents lacked novelty and were merely a scheme to lure investors. Despite he wasn't even a registered patent attorney, he had no standing to make that claim.
Right.
Because there's all different kinds of attorneys, and if you're not
But in
that
fact,
kind of attorney,
yeah, and when in fact patents were issued and
Yes.
awarded to Reggie,
and have been more,
And-
yeah. Then the obstruction of justice, hiding and delaying FOIA requests. The SEC denied the existence of subpoena-related records in a FOIA request, then later reversed the stance after a bar complaint was filed, revealing 84 documents. So how do you, if you file, what good is a FOIA if they lie until you have
exactly.
to reveal it? Conflict of interest and ethical violations. The SEC's expert witness, Patrick Doty, failed to disclose financial conflicts of interest related to digital assets, affecting his credibility. Aiding and abetting securities violation. The SEC allowed fair fund claimants, okay, this was the token part, that to retain very tokens after compensating them, yet later threatened enforcement actions for them possessing or trading the same tokens. So
Okay.
I guess when one of the people from the story that I remember, the person, like they were seeking clarity, token clarity, whatever, and it was like they wouldn't give clarity, but you better not use them in the secondary market. And it's like, well, if you were so worried about it, why didn't you force them to be returned? And then number 12, the abusive process. The SEC strategically froze assets without proper justification, severely harming Veritasium's business and stakeholders. And Reggie Middleton should be on there. But so these, it gives like the documents. SEC is accused of engaging in 12 distinct instances of fraud or unethical conduct, ranging from false court filings, suppression of evidence, coercion, conflict of interest, and regulatory inconsistencies. These actions can suggest a pattern of misconduct that undermine the integrity of the enforcement actions against Reggie Middleton and the Veritasium enterprises. So
Well,
hopefully Doge SEC will see this, and hopefully it's not just a very thing. This is anyone that is a token holder in the secondary market. If you look at what happened to token holders in the secondary market, you are affected by their actions.
exactly. We all are, you know. It was a example of why I didn't personally invest in Veritasium or Dragon Chain early on, because they were on my radar, but American born meant that SEC was going to come after them eventually. That's how I felt. So I had made a hard, fast rule. I wasn't going to invest in anything that was American built in the crypto world.
Well, and doesn't that sound like a weaponization
Yes.
of the SEC or of these, lawfare or litigious groups or whatever, but to benefit other countries? Because like you said, anything American made, I know that's going to get on the radar and going to get knocked down, instead of looking out for Americans and looking out for what's in the best interest of our country, improving innovation, wanting us to be on the leading edge of this technology. And instead, I wonder what interests they had. I wonder if they had another country's interest at heart.
And, going back, I know a lot of people are going to not like what I have to say here, but when I knew that Mnuchin got named as Treasury Secretary, that was, beyond just thinking of crypto in the U.S. and thinking that, okay, well, as Trump being elected in 2016, America's not going to be pro crypto with Mnuchin there. And one Trump's comments is, "I favor the dollar." He's changed on his Bitcoin stance. I get that, and it's showing today. Bad advice back then, and advisors that he was surrounded with gave him bad advice, and therefore bad decisions were made. Forget all of the foxes in the hen house like Gensler and Clayton and the
Right.
rest. But that was why I foresaw that this was going to be a problem in 2016. I just knew it was like building up. Excuse me, I'm getting congested. And so I don't know. My thinking was, okay, so in 2020 we get a new president. Is this new president going to be pro crypto or not pro crypto? In favor of crypto? And it was, of course, it turned out to become a Biden versus Trump run. And so I'm still thinking the last thing I'm going to do is invest in a U.S. company if it's in the crypto sphere.
Wow. Yeah.
So that was my thinking, and nothing changed. So now, fast forward, now I'm 8 years in, 2024, and that rule still applies. I broke the rule when I invested in Dragon Chain's Did Social, thinking that Did Social being, a separate token, only using Dragon Chain software, that Did Social wouldn't be hurt because the tech
that was the model that Reggie had.
Yeah,
He owns the IP. We were
Right.
just buying tokens to be able to use the software.
just like Dragon Chain tokens were that.
Yeah.
To use the software. So I thought that Did Social would be fine and not really hurt by Dragon Chain's case with the SEC, and that it had it, and it still does. It has such tremendous potential for its technology, and it's a poly market. It's a poly market on every post and every reply. That's amazing, and it's there, and there's no ad. So what you have is you have a poly market in a social media application on every post, for quality content or not quality, on every reply for quality or not quality.
Right.
And so I thought that tech is amazing. It's community notes done better before anyone else.
Before
So I thought, well,
yeah.
I'm going to do it. But, inevitably the SEC hit Dragon Chain, crippled Dragon Chain to such a degree that it froze and paused any kind of new development for Did.Social. So I broke my own rule and I got hurt by it. But I still believe in it and think that the tide has turned, and now maybe external, investors, and finishing the decentralization part and making it borderless and making it open sourced so that nobody can touch it. So now I'm at the point now in my life, I look at it and say, I'm still not going to invest in US until I see Veritasium and Dragon Chain, their wrongs being made right,
Yeah.
vindicated.
Yeah.
And then I will take another look at you. If I was going to create a crypto, I certainly wouldn't launch it in the US at this day and time. I still would.
I think a lot of companies felt that way, because
And I know there's a
lawfare.
bit of, the sucking sound of developers have left this country. And look at Dragon Chain and Veritasium are American born. They're American made. They're made by Americans. They were created by Americans for the world to make the world a better place, to solve a problem, to create and provide a solution to undercut the other markets with their ingenuity and their creativity that works. And what's interesting, both of them went down the same path. We're going to get IPs. We're going to get patents.
Right. Trying to do the right
they're
thing.
playing in an unfair court. Court.
And then the minute, like when they came in and showed how the Vader software worked, and then a couple of days later they come after them, and it's like, and then to say that you don't have a working model, like the only reason you know about it is because they submitted. So anyway, I'm proud to stand with other Veritasium token holders, and I'm really proud that we have this opportunity for we the people to bring a complaint. For so long, people have felt that they couldn't do anything. The problem's too big. Nobody's going to listen to me. I'm not part of that corrupt Washington. I'm not in the club. It's a big club and you're not in it. But for that Doge security or SEC to say, like, DM us, please submit. Here's the email to submit, and CC these senators. There's like 5 or 6 senators, which I think are all on the same ones that were on the debt box letter. there is a way to have your voice heard and to say enough, and that I was harmed. We don't have to keep being stolen from and just sit down and be good little slaves, or else they're going to sick their dogs after you,
Right.
And I did put in my letter, that I write this, fearing retaliation, because we've seen some of that.
Great.
And so, but it's something that is important and it's worth standing up for.
I agree. And that's why I'm going to do the same for Dragon Chain. So
That's awesome.
I applaud you, Lisa, for doing what you just did, and
Thank you.
with great detail, and I think it's the right thing to do.
I do
Stand
too.
up for what you believe in.
Yeah,
We all have to.
We all have to. And that's where, if they can't, they might be able to ignore one or two of us, but if all of us are shouting it, then it's going to stop.
And hopefully the lawfare will stop,
Yes.
It probably took Trump to be so targeted to the nth degree as a campaign, in his campaign for president, to wake his eyes up and see all of that ugliness around the world, as far as lawfare goes. So,
Well, speaking of people standing up, I thought this was so great. The New Zealand Maori men went and disrupted a drag queen story hour and did if you've never seen the Maori do their tribal dance, and it is very powerful.
Yeah.
And if you don't think that was frequency changing, and they're reclaiming their land, they're saying they've had enough. These are all, things we can do as well.
it was really good. Really good.
There were also, let's see. Oh my goodness. The Podesta emails are supposed to come out.
I hope so.
That will
Put
be
them all out there, along with the Epstein list. Yeah.
supposedly the Epstein
evil.
list comes out the day of Kash Patel's confirmation. But I also saw the Podesta emails were supposed to be coming out, and that brings into question Catholic charities, the Catholic Church itself,
Yep.
foster care, all that kind of stuff.
Oof,
So
ugly.
all the ugliness.
And them cutting deals with the cartels around the world for human trafficking.
Yes.
They're involved
And
in
using NGOs and
our money,
using our money to traffic children and women and do all these horrible things. I mean, there was one article or video I watched, and he was explaining how they have been, it may be the one I just had up, that with our money, they're sleeping on the floor in school.
Pig slaughterhouses and doing the whole night shift. And we're allowing this all to happen under our noses here in the greatest country of the world, the United States.
Yeah, that they're picking up kids because they're not vetting the sponsors. And so there's these random people are picking up kids 10, 12, 15 at a time. And then they do these busts and they see these kids not going to school, not eating, sleeping on the floor. And like you said, being child slave labor, being worked. I mean, that's probably, some of them probably beg to go to the pig farm to clean versus what the other ones might have to do. But all of that, and it's all funded through these NGOs and nonprofits and in partnership with the cartel. Which I think you have some information for us about that.
Oh, cartels.
Yeah. What do you think about this? Apparently the Mexico legislature, or I'm not sure their structure, but
their Senate, they have a House and Senate.
Senate. Okay. Voted to allow the U.S. military to come in to fight the cartels, the Mexican cartels. What are your thoughts on that?
My understanding is they didn't allow the U.S. to come in and attack the cartels to clean house. It's to be a training mission for their military. So we're going to send some of our best trainers and elite people to go in and train their military and to fight.
That's even better.
Yeah.
That's even better.
But this isn't the first time that has been attempted. So the problem having lived on the border and having operations on both sides of the border, logistics, having been a person with a company that exported mostly U.S. Protein products into Mexico, and we would also we ran up against the sugar cartel, because we used to have what were called imparos. It was a way to skirt the tariff laws and skirt the importation regulations to bring sugar in to Mexico legally, but under a very, how can I say it? Well, it's like an injunction to allow one load to come through, and then another injunction to allow another load to come through, something like that. And we were doing those kinds of things, and we would buy sugar. We actually bought sugar at one point by the boatload and had it docked in Brownsville and brought it into the U.S. and then for the U.S. into Mexico. And that was quite the experience. But we did mostly protein products. Having said that, we would move this was mostly pork, but it was chicken as well, sometimes beef, but usually not beef, but mostly pork and chicken into Mexico. And to do that, we obviously had to transload off of the U.S. truck onto a Mexican truck at the U.S.-Mexican border. And when we would do this, the Mexican trucks had to, let's say it's going to Mexico City. Well, we had to pay the insurance payment so that the truck would make it all the way to its destination. Then the driver would get hijacked and the load gets stolen. So we made insurance payments, and this is just what you did. Well, the problem and what we've learned, you learn over time, and you have to know the right people that can pay your insurance pay your insurance to secure the load. And when we had a particular case, we had a driver who we had been making our payments on time, and we had a driver get kidnapped with a load of pork. I think it was pork.
Oh my God. Yeah.
And we called a judge. We didn't call the federales or anyone else. We called a district judge. It would be like calling a U.S. appeals court judge at a high level to have our load released, since you're going to get it this afternoon. So the point I'm making here, and that's what happened.
Wow.
The government and the cartels are really one in Mexico.
Right.
So if you're going to cut into the cartels and you think you're going to send the U.S. military to take out the cartels, well, you might as well start at the Mexican capital, as far as I'm concerned.
Sure.
And I'll show you this map here. This will be eye-opening to you, everybody. This is 2024. These colors represent all the different cartels in Mexico. And these are the territories that they cover. Like in yellow is the Juarez cartel, and that's over by El Paso. The Sinaloa cartel is in red,
Oh my gosh.
And you hear about them all the time. This is the regions that they cover, okay? And if you're going to really go after the cartels, well, what happens is one president gets elected and he cuts a deal, or she cuts a deal and says, we're going to take down the Juarez cartel. Well, what happens is they basically help fund the Sinaloa cartel to take over territory from the Juarez cartel. That's what happens.
So
It's
you
just
get rid of one rat and there's 10 more behind the door.
It's on purpose. So they'll tell, hey, the Sinaloa cartel, leave me alone, help me get elected, and I'll give you more territory, and the territory we'll get for you will be from the Juarez cartel. That's how it works. So these cartel borders and boundaries shrink and expand depending on who's elected and who cut the deal with who. And Mexico, they don't have gun rights like we do, so the people can't fight and defend themselves with a gun. We sent down and trained a group of military personnel around Laredo, I believe it was, And then they knocked out the cartel that was next to him. That cartel's not even on list anymore. It's called the Northeast Central, the black one there.
Oh, the black
Anyway,
one.
yeah, that was a different cartel at one time, and they had our own weapons. And what they did was they were military, and they wiped out the cartel in that area, and then they became the new cartel. They just stopped being military people, and they started becoming cartel people with our own weapons.
New boss, same as the old boss, or whatever that saying is.
Yeah. So it's a complicated problem in my honest, and I rarely drink. I don't do any kind of drugs or anything. And so, but I have no problem with it. I guess that's my libertarian perspective. If you are old enough, you're an adult, and you recognize the dangers associated with it, then so long as you don't harm anybody else, then you want to partake, go for it. It doesn't, So I'm of that belief. The only way we're going to really fix it is if we legalize it, and then you cut out, and then you still secure the border, so we don't have, smuggling of human trafficking.
I tell you what, though, I don't know about that because, okay, so I had a weed business for a short period of time here in Oklahoma when it became legal to have cannabis and sell it and whatever. We just did topicals because I was partnership with a lady who's an esthetician, and so she was already making natural products, and she found the health benefits of cannabis, add them to some of her products, and then I was helping with the business side. But as the transition happened in Oklahoma, the laws became so restrictive that you couldn't create a product without charging so much. You lost any margin. And it was just ridiculous. You were spending more in licensing than you were for your product to, And
I know, time out. And that's exactly right. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting.
No, please.
It's exactly right. And that's on purpose. In other words, that cartel money or the CIA money is going to lobbyists to switch and regulate these businesses out so that the cartels can still move their marijuana up and undercut you because you got to pay all this regulation money versus the guy on the street. So ultimately what happens is, I'm just going to make my own brownies, essentially. I'm going to make my own gummies, essentially. Even though the problem with that is making your own or buying them from your neighbor, you hope they got a clean kitchen, and you hope that their measurements are exact, because it's very difficult to get that THC
You'd have to have
in every gummy. It's almost nearly impossible.
It is almost nearly impossible. They claim that they're all the same, but if you look at the manufacturing, they're not. It's impossible. Yeah. And that's even a tested product.
Yeah. The cartels and our government, the CIA, in my opinion, have been in on this to regulate you out of business, to make it so that the cartels can still ship their stuff. And it goes both ways. Well, it creates more border patrol jobs. It creates more law enforcement jobs. It creates more people in prison. It creates more jobs for defense attorneys and prosecution attorneys, and on and on and on and on and on. So you'll have no chance of trying to do a hemp business, a legal marijuana business, or whatever in your state, even if it's legalized, because these guys are going to undercut you with the raw stuff coming across the border. That's my opinion. So you want to really cut the legs out from underneath them, then you defund them. How do you defund them? You just legalize it everywhere, even if it's in its raw format. And so now the price collapses.
But legalize without regulation?
As long as you're an adult. I know it's radical thinking, but come on. The war on drugs is a bunch of bullshit. Sorry.
No, I
got it. It's a bunch of bullshit because we've had this war been going on for what, 40, 50 years, 60 years? I don't know.
Well, it depends on what you call a drug. It could be even
exactly. And it's, what has it done? It's done nothing but line the pockets and create government jobs that shouldn't exist. It creates all kinds of stuff. And let's not, if anything, what we should have done was we should have let marijuana be illegal, and we should have banned alcohol, in my opinion, because alcohol creates more. It brings more ugliness in our lives. With marijuana, everyone's smoking marijuana. It's like, hey, dude, hey, well, let's chill, relax, peace.
Or they'll go to bed. Yeah. And
Yeah.
fall asleep. That's fine too.
Or eat.
Yeah. Would, and I'm kind of catching you off guard with this, but do
Sure.
you see a scenario where the umbrella promise would prevent like the lawfare part, the over
Yes.
litigation, the money being deferred to politicians and licensing and whatever, instead of the small American business owner?
100%, 110%. Because the ugly fact is our politicians are bought and paid for, and they don't listen to we the people. And we have a supposed, constitutional republic, a representative government, but they don't represent us anymore. Even the best people with good intentions that we send up to the hill, in DC, eventually they turn. And, they have a 95, 96, 98% incumbency, reelection. So that, in other words, 98% of the time they're going to get reelected. It's very difficult to get someone out. Pelosi, McConnell, look at how long they've been in there. Look how Biden was in there forever and ever and ever, right? It's all he knew. So we have to get the money out of politics. And to ask the fox, in the hen house to vote money out of politics just isn't good.
Yeah, it's not going to happen.
Or a constitutional amendment is just not going to happen. So it's got to come from the ground up, a grassroots idea. And the umbrella promise is just picture your U.S. Capitol with an umbrella over the top of it. And those lobbyists and special interests are raining money down on the Capitol. And all that money is going straight into their pockets, right?
Yeah.
The lobby. Vote for this new weapon system. Oh, vote for border security. Oh, vote for immigration reform. Oh, vote for this, vote for that, education, vote for this. And they got their money, their hands out, and it's legalized bribery. But if you put an umbrella over it, that money can't come to the politician. It's going to come off the side of the umbrella, and it's going to trickle down to the district. And the trick is that we have in the district, we use a DAO, a decentralized autonomous organization, where we vote per the DAO. Our elected leader will promise, and they sign a contract, that they will only vote per our DAO, in other words,
the DAO decision. They'll honor the DAO vote.
Right. And it doesn't matter if only 10 of us vote on a bill or 1 million of us in our district vote on that same bill. They're only going to vote per our vote. So it's kind of like direct democracy, but it's still representative democracy because the representative still has to do committee meetings
Has
and
a
all
job
those other functions.
Yeah.
But they're still going to, and then guess what? They don't have to run for office and raise all this money either, because the DAO is going to reelect them so long as they've been voting for the DAO. And it takes the money out of the equation is what it does. We got to talk about it.
Let's do a whole show on that, because where we are right now, everything's so broken and being exposed, but we're going to be at this point in our history of our country where we have to rebuild, and we have to rebuild the right way. And I believe that could be part of it. So
next week, for sure.
Yes, next week we will do that. Next Monday. I'm excited.
I am. Fixes Washington.
That's right.
With Doge and Trump and everyone else.
Whoever it takes, we the people, right?
That's
I
right.
I always thought that was a we on your name. So
that's right. That's why it is I am we.
We the people.
Not like we, not French, not French Canadian. No. No.
Well, thank you for joining me. I know today was slam-packed with so much news, but these were the topics that I really felt were like just really important to touch on. And I wanted to read my victim impact statement publicly. So I appreciate you guys participating in that, being part of that, and honoring me with listening to that and hearing all the evil doings of the SEC. Yes. So we'll see you this Thursday, possibly on World Washington Roundtable. Okay.
Yes, it's a good one. It's going to be 20 days post Trump with the SEC. So we're going to talk about what has changed at the SEC, I should say 30 days after Trump's election. So
Oh, I can't wait. I'll have to go make a post on that.
it's the SEC. It's the SEC. Kind of, we're going to evaluate the SEC 30 days now that Trump's been elected, after Trump's been elected.
Oh, good. I'll put my homeschool mom hat on and I'll give them a report
So
card.
Veritasium is going to be in the discussion.
Yeah.
Dragon Chain, of course, is going to be in the discussion. I'm sure XRP is going to be in the discussion. Any library, any of them who have been affected and damaged by the SEC, as well as us. So it's going to be a really good show.
I really want to bring in
good stuff.
not just the companies, but the token holders viewpoint. Really talk about that. All of us as we, the people, making choices, well, we'll get into it. But anyway, you guys take care. Thanks for joining us in the comments. We love, I do read your comments, even though I don't always post all of them. But thank you guys. And please, if you're watching this later, please give us a like and share and leave a comment below and let us know your thoughts. So check out din.social.